The gavel didn't just echo in the courtroom. It hammered nails into the coffin of my life. I was standing in Cook County Courthouse, room 2405, a sterile box of polished wood and suffocating silence, listening to a man I'd never met decide my future. He sat elevated, a black-robed deity passing judgment, and my wife Sarah stood beside her lawyer, projecting an image of the perfect wronged mother. Her eyes, the same ones that used to look at me with love, were now cold, calculating stones. The real gut punch wasn't the legalese or the condescending tone from the bench. It was the almost imperceptible smirk that flickered across Judge Thompson's face as he looked from Sarah back to me. It was a look of shared victory, a secret pass between them in plain sight. And in that sickening moment, under the fluorescent hum of the courtroom lights, I realized the man deciding whether I could see my own daughter was the same man who had been sleeping with my wife. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. Had it started subtly, as these things always do. A shift in the tectonic plates of our marriage so minor I almost missed it. Sarah, who once lived in yoga pants and my old college sweatshirts, was suddenly curating a wardrobe fit for a CEO. Late-night work dinners in the Gold Coast became a weekly occurrence. When I'd call, she'd answer in a hushed, annoyed whisper, the clinking of wine glasses in the background. The distance between us grew from a crack to a chasm. She started guarding her phone like it was a state secret, the screen angled away from me, a nervous tick in her thumb as she swiped away notifications. One night, I woke up at 3 a.m. to the faint blue glow from the living room. She was on the couch, phone in hand, a smile on her face I hadn't seen directed at me in years. When she saw me, the smile vanished, replaced by a flash of pure venom. "Can a person have some privacy?" she snapped, clutching the phone to her chest. The coldness became her default setting. My touch was met with a flinch. My questions were met with accusations. "Why are you so controlling?" she'd ask, her voice dripping with manufactured indignation. "You're suffocating me, Mark." She was a master manipulator, twisting my concern into paranoia, my love into a cage. The villains, her and this faceless man she was texting, felt untouchable. They were living in a world of whispered secrets and stolen nights while I was left in the quiet. Sterile echo of our once happy home on a tree-lined street in Lincoln Park, the breaking point came on our daughter. Lily's 6th birthday, Sarah had promised she'd be home early. By 8 p.m., the cake was untouched, and Lily had cried herself to sleep. Sarah waltzed in just before midnight, smelling of expensive perfume and champagne. I didn't yell. The anger had burned out, leaving only a hollow, aching void. "Where were you, Sarah?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She scoffed, tossing her keys on the hall table. "God, Mark, I had a client dinner. You know how important this deal is, but I saw the receipt she'd carelessly left in her coat pocket, peeking out from the silk lining. It wasn't from a client dinner. It was a room charge for 2 at the Peninsula Chicago. That night, something in me shattered. A loyal husband, the man who believed in forgiveness and second chances, died. I sat in my home office until dawn, the hotel receipt on the desk in front of me, a monument to my humiliation. And as the sun rose over the city, a new man was born from the ashes, strategic, cold, and utterly ruthless. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop who operated out of a dusty office in the Loop. I didn't need proof of the affair for myself. I needed ammunition. For 2 weeks, he followed her. The photos he delivered were a clinical, brutal catalog of her betrayal. Sarah laughing as she got into a black Mercedes on North Michigan Avenue. Sarah kissing a man in the shadow of a parking garage. Sarah hand in hand with him, entering a discreet Italian restaurant on Rush Street. The man was older, distinguished, with a face that radiated power. The pie had his name in under an hour. Judge Arthur Thompson. A prominent, respected family court judge. The irony was so cruel it was almost poetic. I didn't confront her. Instead, I played the part of the oblivious, heartbroken husband. I let her file for divorce first, just as I knew she would. I let her paint me as unstable and controlling, her lawyer echoing her lies in preliminary filings. And I let her, with a smug sense of triumph, request that her case be heard by the most respected judge in the family division, her lover Arthur Thompson. It was the trap I had been waiting for her to walk into. The day of the custody hearing was a masterclass in deception. Sarah, coached by Thompson, was flawless. She cried on cue, her voice trembling as she spoke of my erratic behavior and emotional instability. Thompson listened with a mask of judicial impartiality, but I saw it all the slight nod of encouragement, the way his gaze softened when he looked at her. My lawyer, a shark I'd paid a small fortune for, began his cross-examination. He started gently lulling them into a false sense of security. Then he presented the first piece of evidence: phone records. Hundreds of calls and texts between Sarah and a single number, often late at night on weekends. Just a friend, Sarah said, her composure starting to crack. A mentor. Then came the bank statements, lavish gifts, hotel stays, dinners all paid for by a credit card in Sarah's name. Business expenses, she insisted, her voice rising. Finally, my lawyer placed a large envelope on the witness stand. Mrs. Miller, can you identify the people in these photographs? Slid out an 8x10 glossy with Sarah and Judge Thompson locked in an embrace outside the Peninsula Hotel. The color drained from her face. The courtroom, which had been murmuring, fell dead silent. Thompson's face was a mask of horror. He banged his gavel, his hand shaking. This is irrelevant. This is character assassination, he boomed, his voice cracking. But it was too late. My lawyer turned to the bench, his voice ringing with cold fury. Your Honor, this is not just relevant, it is the entire case. We have evidence of a conspiracy to defraud this court. We have evidence that you, Judge Thompson, have been engaged in an improper relationship with the plaintiff, and have been actively advising her in a case over which you are presiding. He dropped the rest of the photos on the court reporter's desk. Photo after photo of their affair, a timeline of their lies. Sarah was openly sobbing now. Not the performative tears from before, but the raw, ugly sobs of a cornered animal. The legal fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Thompson was forced to recuse himself, and the Judicial Inquiry Board launched a full-scale investigation. He was suspended, his career in ruins, his reputation destroyed overnight. Sarah's case collapsed. She lost everything. The court awarded me full custody of Lily, and her outrageous alimony demands were thrown out. She was a social pariah, the cheating wife of a disgraced judge. Saw her one last time, months later. She was coming out of a grocery store, looking thin and worn. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by cheap jeans and a faded t-shirt. She saw me, and for a moment, her eyes filled with a familiar, desperate hatred, but there was no power left in her gaze. She was just a ghost, haunting the ruins of a life she had torched with her own hands. I didn't say a word. I just got in my car with my daughter and drove away. Revenge wasn't loud or explosive.
House.
It was a quiet, precise demolition of a life built on lies. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that courtroom, the look on their faces when the trap snapped shut, and I feel nothing at all. The end.